You know how Erika Kirk lied about not dating 5 years before she met Charlie Kirk, even though we all know now she was dating a guy named Cabot Phillips who works at Turning Point USA.
It didn't start with a headline. Started with whispers moving faster than anyone could keep up with. Late-night posts, half-hidden screenshots, and vague captions began appearing across social media, all pointing toward the same explosive claim. Reports were coming out that private photos allegedly involving J.D. Vance had hit the internet, and Erika Kirk's name was suddenly attached to the chaos. Fans were shocked, not because anything was confirmed, but because of how quickly the story took on a life of its own. Just hours before the chatter exploded, Erika Kirk's online presence had gone quiet. No updates, no engagement, no familiar posts. In the world of influencer drama, that kind of silence never goes unnoticed. People started asking questions. Why now? Why this? And why was Erika nowhere to be seen as her name trended across platforms? Emotions ran high as speculation filled the gap left by unanswered questions. Commentary channels rushed to clarify that these were reports, not proven facts. Still, the internet rarely waits for certainty. According to circulating claims, the photos were private, never meant to be public, and their sudden appearance felt deliberate. Some posts hinted at betrayal, others suggested manipulation, and a few went as far as calling it a calculated takedown. No evidence was confirmed, but the narrative was already forming. Reaction videos flooded timelines. Some creators looked stunned, others skeptical. If these reports are even partially true, one commentator said, "This changes the entire perception of what we thought we knew." That sentence alone was enough to ignite debate. Fans split into camps almost instantly. Some defended Erika, arguing that unverified leaks are often used to humiliate and control. Others questioned her silence, wondering why no statement had been released to slow the rumors. Then came the most unsettling detail. Multiple entertainment pages claimed Erika was breaking down behind the scenes. Not publicly, not on camera, but privately. According to these reports, the pressure was intense, the scrutiny relentless, and the emotional toll impossible to hide. The family was left divided in public opinion. Friends were said to be worried, and supporters feared the situation was spiraling beyond control. And here's what makes this story impossible to ignore. This isn't being framed as something that definitely happened. It's being framed as something people are talking about everywhere. And when reports like this start circulating, truth and perception collide in dangerous ways. The question now isn't just what is real. It's how far this story is about to go. And who gets caught in the fallout next? The moment those reports started floating around, it felt like the entire internet snapped into the same nervous rhythm. Not because anyone had proof in their hands, but because the rumor was packaged in the most dangerous way possible. Private photos, a powerful political figure, and a public-facing influencer whose brand was built on control. That combination does not land softly. It lands like a match dropped into gasoline. According to multiple chatter threads, the images were being passed around in closed circles first. Private chats, group DMs, whisper networks that always claim they are protecting people while feeding the fire. And then, as it always happens, someone got impatient. Someone wanted attention. Someone wanted the story to be bigger than the people involved. And suddenly, the rumor broke out of the shadows and into the open where it could. Grow Teeth. Commentary pages were careful with their wording. They kept repeating that these were circulating reports, not confirmed facts. Still, the audience did what it always does when it senses blood in the water. They rushed in with opinions before details. They built timelines out of vibes. They turned old clips into evidence by replaying them with new captions. Fans were shocked by how quickly the story moved from, "Is this real?" to "Why would she do that?" even though no one could verify. What they were seeing, the influencer at the center of the rumor, had been silent for hours, which only made things louder. In the online world, silence is never just silence. It becomes a statement people can shape into whatever they want. Some supporters insisted she was doing the smart thing, staying quiet while legal teams and advisors handled it. Critics argued that the longer she waited, the more the narrative hardened without her. Emotions ran high as both sides talked like they were defending truth, when really they were defending the version of her they preferred. Behind the scenes, according to Entertainment Chatter, her friends were panicking. Not because they knew the truth, but because they understood how the internet works. One person close to her was allegedly quoted saying something like, "She's not sleeping, just staring at her phone." Another post claimed she was, breaking down, pacing, and repeating the same sentence. "They're going to destroy me with a story that isn't even mine." Those lines spread fast because they sounded believable, and belief online travels faster than facts. The rumor also pulled in the politician's orbit. And that's when the story became radioactive. Whenever a political name gets attached to personal scandal talk, even as alleged reports, everything becomes more aggressive. Commentary channels that never cover influencer drama suddenly posted thumbnails about it. Political accounts that usually argue policies started quoting gossip threads. It wasn't just people watching a mess. It was people grabbing the mess and using it like a weapon. Fans were shocked by how quickly the conversation stopped being about privacy and started being about loyalty. Supporters of the politician framed the influencer as a threat, a distraction, a liability. Supporters of the influencer framed her as a target, a pawn, someone being dragged for clicks. And the most unsettling part was that both sides could make their argument sound logical because the story had enough ambiguity to let everyone fill in the blanks their own way. A few hours later, the first twist hit the timeline. A popular gossip page posted that the photos were not new but resurfaced. That one word changed the temperature. Resurfaced implies a past. Resurfaced implies history. Resurfaced implies someone held onto something and waited for the right moment. And once that idea settled in, people started hunting for a motive. Who kept them? Who leaked them? Who benefits? Then, as if someone was feeding the drama on purpose, another claim appeared. An ex, not named, not confirmed, but described the way rumor characters always are. Bitter, patient, resentful. Someone who watched her build a brand that looked spotless and decided to stain it publicly. Again, no proof, just a storyline the internet was eager to adopt. And once you introduce an ex into a scandal narrative, everything becomes emotional. The internet doesn't just discuss it anymore. It performs it according to one thread. The influencer had been warned months ago that something could come out. Another thread claimed she had tried to shut down old connections, clean up her digital footprints, keep her past sealed. Whether any of that was true didn't matter to the algorithm. It sounded dramatic. It sounded cinematic. It sounded like a downfall arc. And so people shared it as if sharing made it real. The pressure on her image was immediate. She had built her public persona around composure, values, and discipline, the kind of branding that leaves little room for messy gray areas. So the rumor wasn't just private photos exist. The rumor was the person you think you know is not who you think. And that is the kind of accusation that doesn't need evidence to hurt, because it attacks trust more than it attacks facts. Fans were shocked watching older interviews get dragged into the storm. People clipped short moments where she smiled at the wrong time or paused before answering a question and treated those micro expressions like confessions. A commentator played one old clip and said, "Look at her eyes. She looks guilty." Another responded, "Look at her eyes. She looks terrified." The same footage became two different weapons depending on who held it. Then came the second twist. The one that made the story feel less like random gossip and more like a coordinated crisis. Someone leaked what they claimed was a behind-the-scenes message from an advisor to the influencer. It wasn't clear if it was real, but it spread anyway. The message allegedly said, "Do not deny specifics. Talk about boundaries. Talk about privacy. Keep it broad. The internet read that as strategy, and strategy made people suspicious. If it's strategy, they argued, then something must be true. Supporters pushed back hard, saying strategy is exactly what you do when you're being targeted by rumors. By the end of the night, the influencer's inner circle was allegedly split. One friend supposedly told her, "You have to speak, because silence is killing you." Another allegedly said, "If you speak, you validate the story." Emotions ran high because both were right in different ways. Staying silent makes the narrative grow. Speaking makes you part of the narrative. There was no clean exit, and that's when the breakdown reports became the centerpiece. Entertainment pages claimed she was overwhelmed, not by the existence of any photos, but by the speed of public judgment. They claimed she felt trapped between protecting herself and feeding. Somewhere in the middle of all this, one smaller detail slipped through, and it changed how people framed everything. A rumor page claimed that the politician's team was monitoring the situation. That phrase sparked a new wave of fear. Monitoring implies seriousness. Monitoring implies possible legal action. Monitoring implies the influencer could be isolated, pressured, or blamed to protect someone bigger. The family was left divided again in public opinion because suddenly the story wasn't just scandal, it was power. And with power involved even, innocent silence starts to look like guilt, and even careful wording starts to look like a cover-up. Fans were shocked because they could feel it turning into something more than gossip. Not a simple internet moment, but a narrative battle where the loudest side would decide what everyone else believed. As the story continued to spread, the tone across the internet shifted from curiosity to confrontation. People were no longer just asking what the reports meant. They were deciding what they believed. Fans were shocked at how quickly certainty replaced doubt, even though nothing new had been verified. The rumor had matured into a narrative. And narratives demand sides. Commentary channels began hosting long discussions about motive. If these reports were circulating now, why now? Timing became the obsession. Some argued it was opportunistic, dropped during a moment when attention could not be diverted. Others claimed it felt retaliatory, as if someone had been waiting patiently for the right moment to push a private situation into the public eye. Emotions ran high because the answers mattered less than the feeling that something intentional was unfolding. According to Entertainment Chatter, the influencer at the center of the storm was no longer just overwhelmed. She was said to be spiraling between anger and disbelief. One post claimed she kept repeating that she had done everything right, that she had followed every rule of public life, and that it still wasn't enough. Whether that quote was real or imagined didn't slow its spread. It resonated with anyone who has ever felt punished despite trying to control their image. As the hours passed, people close to her were reportedly urging different approaches. One friend was said to have told her that she was being framed and needed to defend herself forcefully. Another allegedly warned that any defensive tone would be used against her. This internal conflict mirrored the external one. The family was left divided in the public eye, with supporters accusing critics of cruelty and critics accusing supporters of blind loyalty. The alleged involvement of a powerful political figure intensified everything. Even though no confirmation existed, the association alone changed the rules. Gossip that might have stayed within influencer circles suddenly felt dangerous. Commentators pointed out that when power imbalance enters a story, the smaller figure often carries the risk. Fans were shocked to see how quickly the influencer was framed as expendable, someone whose reputation could absorb damage to protect a larger name. Online detectives began revisiting her past, not to find facts, but to build a psychological profile. Old friendships were scrutinized. Former collaborators were questioned in comment sections. Silence from people who once praised her was treated as betrayal. People read meaning into who unfollowed whom, who liked which post, who didn't say anything at all. Emotions ran high because every digital movement was interpreted as loyalty or rejection. One dramatic twist came when a former acquaintance of the influencer hinted online that this situation had been feared for a long time. The post was vague, carefully worded, and never directly accused anyone. Still, it exploded across timelines. Fans were shocked because it suggested this moment wasn't random. It implied preparation, warning signs, and ignored red flags. Critics seized on it as validation. Supporters dismissed it as clout chasing. The divide deepened. As the speculation grew, so did concern about the influencer's mental state. Commentary. Pages described her as isolated, overwhelmed, and emotionally exhausted. They claimed she felt cornered by a narrative she could not escape. Even those skeptical of the reports acknowledged the human cost of being discussed this way. It's one thing to defend yourself against facts. It's another to defend yourself against imagination. Meanwhile, supporters tried to reframe the conversation. They emphasized that circulating reports are not reality, that commentary does not equal confirmation. They urged people to pause, to stop sharing unverified claims, to remember that public figures are still people. These messages gained traction, but not enough to slow the overall momentum. Outrage travels faster than restraint. And the algorithm rewards reaction. Another twist followed when a popular entertainment host suggested that the influencer's silence might be a legal necessity rather than a personal choice. That idea changed the tone slightly. If lawyers were involved, then speaking could carry consequences beyond reputation. Fans were shocked by how this possibility complicated their expectations. Silence no longer looked passive, it looked cautious. But caution in the eyes of critics still looked suspicious. The influencer's image continued to fracture under the weight of interpretation. People who once admired her composure now questioned its authenticity. Others argued that composure was being mistaken for calculation. The image versus reality clash dominated discussions, with some insisting that no one should be reduced to rumors, and others claiming that public images invite scrutiny by design. The family was left divided. Again, not by facts, but by philosophy. As night approached, the conversation grew darker. Speculation turned into prediction. What would happen if a statement came out? What would happen if it didn't? People spoke about career consequences as if they were inevitable. Some predicted sponsors would quietly step back. Others believed this would blow over once attention moved on. Both sides sounded confident, even though neither could know. One, especially damaging. Rumors suggested that the influencer had been warned in the past that private material could resurface. There was no proof attached, just repetition. Repetition, however, is powerful. Fans were shocked by how easily a hypothetical warning became treated like history. The story fed on itself, layering assumption over assumption until the original question was almost forgotten. Comment sections reflected exhaustion alongside intensity. Some users admitted they felt uncomfortable participating but couldn't look away. Others argued that discomfort was the price of accountability. The story had become a mirror for how people consume drama. Everyone claimed to care about truth, yet few waited for it. Throughout all of this, the influencer remained publicly silent. That silence continued to do the work of 1,000 statements. Supporters interpreted it as dignity. Critics interpreted it as avoidance. Neutral observers saw it as someone trying to survive a moment that spiraled beyond control. Emotions ran high because silence allows everyone to project their own story. By the end of this phase, one thing was undeniable. The narrative was no longer about alleged photos alone. It was about power, perception, and punishment. It was about who gets believed, who gets protected, and who absorbs the fallout when stories collide with influence. Fans were shocked not just by what was being said, but by how easily it all felt believable. and as the conversation pushed deeper into judgment and expectation. The story tightened its grip, not because new information had emerged, but because belief had replaced uncertainty. Once belief sets in, facts struggle to catch up, and the influencer caught in that gap is left facing a public that had already decided what this moment represented, even if no one could prove what actually happened. As the narrative pushed forward, something subtle but dangerous began to happen. People stopped asking whether the reports were accurate and started asking what they revealed. That shift changed everything. When a story reaches that stage, truth becomes secondary to interpretation. Fans were shocked by how quickly the focus moved from evidence to psychology, from what was allegedly leaked to what it supposedly said about the influencer as a person. Commentary. Channels leaned into this transformation. They began framing the situation as a breakdown rather than a controversy. According to circulating reports, the influencer was struggling to keep herself together behind closed doors. Not because of any confirmed detail, but because of the weight of being discussed nonstop. Posts claimed she felt hunted by speculation, trapped by expectations she never agreed to carry. Whether those descriptions were accurate or exaggerated, they landed hard with viewers who recognized the emotional toll of public scrutiny. The image versus reality clash grew sharper with every hour. Supporters argued that the influencer was being punished for not fitting into a neat narrative. Critics countered that public personas are choices, and choices come with consequences. Emotions ran high as both sides talked past each other, convinced they were defending fairness. The family was left divided in public opinion once more, not by allegiance to facts, but by how people believed public figures should behave under pressure. One dramatic moment came when a longtime collaborator of the influencer posted a cryptic message online. It did not mention the reports directly, but it spoke about loyalty, misjudgment, and how silence can be mistaken for guilt. Fans were shocked by the timing. Some interpreted it as support. Others saw it as distance. The post was vague enough to be used by everyone. And that ambiguity fueled another wave of debate. Entertainment writers began highlighting how the influencer's past statements were being reinterpreted through the lens of current rumors. Words that once sounded confident were now described as rehearsed. Pauses that once felt thoughtful were now labeled evasive. This retroactive judgment showed how fragile public perception can be. Once doubt enters the frame, everything that came before is reevaluated, often unfairly. According to online chatter, the influencer was advised to prepare for multiple narratives at once, not because she could control them, but because she could anticipate them. One report claimed she was told to expect sympathy, backlash, and indifference all at the same time. That advice reflected a harsh reality. Internet reactions are rarely unified. They fracture, overlap, and contradict themselves. Creating a noise so loud that it drowns out nuance, the alleged connection to a political figure continued to loom over the conversation. Even without confirmation, the power imbalance was enough to shift sympathy in unpredictable ways. Some viewers believed the influencer was being scapegoated to protect a larger name. Others felt that proximity to power always carries risk. Fans were shocked by how easily personal drama turned into commentary about influence, hierarchy, and protection. Another twist arrived when a rumor suggested that people around the influencer were urging her to take a break from public life. The idea of stepping back ignited fresh debate. Supporters viewed it as self-preservation. Critics framed it as retreat. Neither side acknowledged how difficult it is to step away when your absence becomes its own headline. Emotions ran high because every option seemed to create a new problem. As discussions deepened, some commentators attempted to rehumanize the story. They spoke about the difference between accountability and spectacle. They asked viewers to consider how it feels to be discussed by millions without a voice. These appeals resonated with a portion of the audience, but not enough to slow the overall momentum. Outrage and intrigue remained more compelling than restraint. The influencer's silence continued to dominate interpretation. Some believed it was proof she was consulting professionals, trying to protect herself legally and emotionally. Others insisted it showed a lack of transparency. The family was left divided again, not only in opinion, but in tone. Some conversations were empathetic, others were relentless. The same silence inspired comfort in one viewer and suspicion in another. What intensified the situation? Further was the emergence of amateur analysis. Users began dissecting body language from old videos, scrutinizing facial expressions, and drawing conclusions from fragments. Fans were shocked by how confidently strangers could diagnose intent from a clip taken out of context. Yet those analyses spread rapidly, gaining traction simply because they sounded convincing. Entertainment pages reported that the influencer felt stripped of complexity. She was being reduced to a symbol rather than treated as a person. Supporters echoed this sentiment, arguing that the story had become a projection of societal expectations rather than a reflection of reality. Critics dismissed that argument, saying influence demands scrutiny. Both sides spoke with certainty, reinforcing their positions with selective reasoning that, as the narrative evolved, tension shifted to potential consequences. Would this affect her career, her partnerships, her ability to speak publicly without everything being reframed? Speculation filled the gap left by facts. Fans were shocked by how quickly people began treating hypothetical outcomes as inevitable. Careers were declared over, reputations rewritten, futures predicted. All without confirmation. In quieter corners of the internet, a different conversation emerged. Some users admitted discomfort with how invested they had become. They questioned whether consuming unverified drama was ethical, even if it was entertaining. These reflections did not dominate the discourse, but they existed as an undercurrent, reminding observers that spectacle comes with responsibility. Throughout all of this, the influencer remained unseen and unheard. That absence amplified the drama rather than diminishing it. People spoke for her, about her, over her. Emotions ran high because the story had become participatory. Every comment, every share, every reaction video pushed it further. As time passed, the situation reached a strange equilibrium. Nothing new had been confirmed, yet everything felt heavier. The narrative had settled into a shape defined by belief rather than information. Fans were shocked by how stable that shape felt, as if it no longer needed proof to exist. And in that moment, it became clear that the story was no longer just about alleged reports. It was about how isolated perception hardens into judgment, how silence transforms into meaning, and how quickly a person can lose ownership of their own narrative once speculation takes over. The influencer, caught in the middle of that process, was facing not just a rumor, but a public reckoning built on uncertainty. As the story moved into its most exhausting stage, a strange sense of inevitability settled over the conversation. Nothing new had been confirmed. No fresh reports had surfaced, yet the weight of the narrative felt heavier than ever. Fans were no longer refreshing their feeds out of shock, but out of habit, as if waiting for closure that never quite arrived. Emotions ran high, not because of revelation, but because uncertainty had stretched on long enough to feel permanent. Commentary around the situation began to shift again. Time toward consequence. Not what happened, but what happens now. Entertainment voices started asking whether moments like this ever truly fade or if they simply change shape. Some argued that once a person's name is tied to a story this explosive, the association lingers even after attention moves elsewhere. Others pushed back, insisting that the internet's memory is short and that outrage always finds a new target. The family was left divided on this point too, with some believing recovery was possible and others convinced the damage was already done, according to circulating discussion. The influencer herself was said to be emotionally drained. Not shattered in a dramatic sense, but worn down by the repetition of being talked about without being heard. Posts claim she felt invisible despite being everywhere, present in every thread but absent from her own narrative. Supporters related to that feeling, describing it as the most isolating part of public scrutiny. Critics dismissed those claims as exaggeration, arguing that influence comes with scrutiny by default. The silence continued, and with it, interpretation multiplied. Some believed the absence of a statement showed restraint, a refusal to feed the spectacle. Others believed it showed fear or worse, calculation. The same quiet act carried opposite meanings depending on who was watching. Fans were shocked by how easily silence could be twisted into evidence of anything people wanted it to be. As the conversation matured, more viewers began questioning their own role in it. Comment sections filled with reflections rather than accusations. Some admitted they had shared posts without thinking, driven by curiosity rather than conviction. Others said they felt manipulated by how the story had been framed from the start. This self-awareness did not erase earlier reactions, but it did soften the tone in some corners of the internet. The contrast between image and reality remained central, but it was now discussed with more complexity. People acknowledged that public images are simplified by design, while real lives are messy and inconsistent. Fans were shocked by how often society demands authenticity while punishing vulnerability. This contradiction became a recurring theme in longer commentary videos, reframing the story as less about scandal and more about expectation. Still, unresolved questions lingered. Would the influencer eventually speak, or would the silence become her final word? Would the reports quietly dissolve, or resurface again in another form? Speculation persisted, but it lacked the sharp edge it once had. Outrage had burned itself out, leaving behind something closer to unease. Supporters continued to express concern for the influencer's well-being. They pointed out that even false narratives can have real consequences, especially when repeated at scale. Critics maintained that public life requires resilience, and that discomfort is part of visibility. The family was left divided one last time between empathy and accountability, each side convinced it was defending fairness. Entertainment writers observing the aftermath noted how predictable the cycle had become. Rumor sparks reaction. Reaction creates narrative. Narrative demands response. Response, or lack of it, fuels the next wave. This pattern, they argued, says less about individuals and more about the ecosystem that rewards intensity over accuracy. Fans were shocked by how familiar this trajectory felt, as if they had seen it play out countless times before. As days passed, attention gradually drifted. New topics surfaced. Other controversies claimed headlines. Yet traces of this story remained, embedded in comment histories and search results. The influencer's name still carried echoes of the moment, even as conversation slowed. This lingering presence reminded observers that the internet rarely forgets entirely, even when it moves on. That time would dull speculation and allow perspective to return. Others were more cynical, suggesting that clarity rarely arrives once perception has taken root. Both views reflected a shared understanding that resolution in stories like this is often incomplete. What stood out most in the final stage was how little certainty mattered anymore. Belief had replaced evidence, and belief is hard to undo. Fans were shocked by how confidently people spoke about a situation built almost entirely on reports and reactions. Yet within that shock was also recognition. Recognition that this is how modern narratives operate, especially when emotion outweighs verification. In quieter reflections, some admitted feeling uneasy about how easily they had consumed the drama. They questioned whether entertainment value had overshadowed humanity. These voices were not the loudest, but they were present, suggesting a growing awareness of the cost of spectacle. In the end, the story did not conclude with a revelation or a confession. It settled into ambiguity, space where silence and speculation coexist, and where meaning is assigned rather than discovered. The influencer remained a subject of discussion rather than an active participant. Her narrative shaped by others. More than herself, fans were shocked, not by a final twist, but by the absence of one. The realization that some stories do not end cleanly, that they fade unevenly, leaving behind impressions rather than answers. This moment became less about what was alleged and more about what it revealed regarding attention, power, and perception. As the noise slowly diminished, one truth remained. When reports circulate at this scale, they create realities of their own, regardless of accuracy. And once those realities take hold, they influence how people are seen, remembered, and judged long after the conversation quiets down. In that sense, the story was never just about photos or rumors. It was about how quickly a narrative can outgrow the people at its center, and how difficult it is to reclaim ownership once that happens. Now, this is where you come in, because stories like this do not exist in a vacuum. They grow, they change, and they take shape based on how people react to them. You have seen how reports, even without confirmation, can turn into full-blown narratives that affect real lives. The question is not just what you believe, but how you choose to engage when stories like this begin to circulate. Ask yourself this: when silence meets speculation, who controls the truth? Do you think staying quiet is a form of protection, or does it allow others to define the story? When private matters are discussed publicly through reports and rumors, where should the line be drawn? These are uncomfortable questions, but they matter more now than ever. Fans are shocked. Emotions ran high, and the family was left divided in opinion. But none of this moves forward without conversation. Maybe you feel sympathy for someone caught in the middle of unverified claims. Maybe you believe public figures should address controversy head-on. Or maybe you think this entire situation exposes how dangerous internet speculation has become. Whatever your perspective is, your voice adds to the bigger picture. So take a moment and let me know what you think in the comments. Do you believe these kinds of reports should be handled differently by commentary channels? Should audiences slow down before sharing stories that are not confirmed? Or is this simply the reality of life in the public eye? Your take matters, because discussion shapes how future stories are treated. If you found this breakdown engaging and thoughtful, make sure you like the video so it reaches more people who want context, not just headlines. Subscribe to the channel if you want more deep dive commentary that looks at how narratives form and why they explode the way they do. And stay connected, because the way we react to stories today decides how the next one will unfold tomorrow.